Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Salmon17. I'm back, and my beard is back. Oh boy. This video is a bit weird to do because of reasons, and I don't know. I think I kind of zoned out to think about what kind of subject I wanted to talk about. I originally wanted to talk about Megas XLR, as a kind of review or an explanation, but I don't know. It's complicated for me. College has been murder for me, and god damn it, math. I really hate it. And I wanted to talk about the subject, not math, of course, but I wanted to talk about subject about animation as a whole and why I love it so much. So I hope you guys can listen to me and listen to my thoughts. There's not gonna be any music in the background because I wanted to, try to be a little bit more serious, especially with considering I sound like having lung cancer, talking through the microphone, of course. It's really hard for me to do these videos, but animation has been a big part of my childhood since the day since the day I discovered it on VHS. Yes, we had VHS tapes back then at my old apartment when I was actually born in 1994. We didn't have like super advanced DVDs or Blu-rays, whatever. It took a while to actually get these kind of type of technologies. And because of budget reasons, I didn't have cable at my house, so I could watch Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. I could only watch Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, and even Disney Channel, another type of super awesome. Well, back then, super awesome kids networks to actually watch, and the only network I kind of got at my grandmother's house was Fox Kids, but that is it. And the only thing I could actually enjoy from animation when I first discovered it is from VHS tapes. And what is the first animation I actually encountered was the freaking Lion King. I even went out of my way to actually buy the DVD for the Lion King because it is a big part of my childhood, and because of that I fell in love with animation. I fell in love that you can create amazing worlds, amazing stories, and make characters express themselves in ways you can do in live action, you can do in real life. And that is why I really love animation, because you can actually do more, be more creative with, with this whole idea, with what you're cooking up, with this whole story, characters, the worlds they're living on, the people are building up on, and yeah, this is why I kind of like the animation department. This is pretty much the one that originally introduced me to animation. I also discovered other shows on my other Disney properties, like the you guys are probably gonna laugh at this, but or maybe not. The other movies I actually watched, Disney movies I watched, was The Little Mermaid, Aladdin. Aladdin was personally my absolute favorite Disney movie, including The Lion King, and and also I watched Aladdin TV series that originally aired on Toon Disney. I know, what were they thinking with this one? And also I watched The Little Mermaid TV series and probably other Disney type of properties. And I also discovered other type of movies. I discovered clay animation, and I think it was called Gambi's World. I do not fully remember, but it was a really old clay animated movie, and I really liked it, and because of that movie, for some reason I got into computers and stuff, because my child brain was functioning slower than any other kid. And because of this, I don't know, I also watched the Also, I watched another show. Some people might actually not even remember the show, but I also watched the Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat, which is a very bizarre cartoon. Like, Jesus Christ, when I look at the cartoon, when I look at the Bizarre Adventures of Felix the Cat, when I look at it now, I feel like, what kind of drugs were the creators on to make this show possible? Like, this was back in the 90s, where actually cartoon shows like Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat was actually acceptable before the whole, nowadays with the whole censorship kind of deal. And because of that, I loved animated shows. And in my country, they actually aired a lot of different animated shows from Cartoon Network, from Nickelodeon, and even Disney, I believe, in some ways and then others. And I discovered shows like Dexter's Laboratory, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Courage the Cowardly Dog, which is absolutely one of my favorite shows. And this is one of those topics I really want to talk about Courage the Cowardly Dog. But I will save that for later. But I discovered many other shows, and also I discovered the Spider-Man the animated series, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, both the '80s show and the 2003 show, Rocko's Modern Life, Hey Arnold, and many other shows from that time. And even too, Disney had decent shows like, for example, I also watched Eek the Cat. I don't know if anyone even remembers that show. Thunder Lizards, Street Sharks, Biker Mice from Mars. I never actually watched SWAT Kids, but I know one of the YouTubers I know I subscribe to named Red Wolf. He's a big fan of SWAT Cats, and I don't know. I will try to actually, watch the whole series. I remember they actually wanted to reboot SWAT Cats. I think they did, but I don't know. But with Cartoon Network, I discovered Cartoon Network very early on, and because of Cartoon Network, shows like Samurai Jack, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Codename Kids Next Door, Mega XLR, the original Ben 10 series, and many other shows that aired during the late 90s and mid 2000s. And the shows gave me so much joy. I was like blown away by this whole amazing storylines, amazing hilarious jokes, and I even discovered some Hanna-Barbera cartoons that are really old, much older than the Powerpuff Girls or even Dexter's Laboratory, that are made by legendary art workers Genndy Tartakovsky and Craig McCracken, which are my two absolute favorite, people who make one of my favorite shows, Powerpuff Girls and Samurai Jack. And I thank them for that and for making the best childhood I ever had. And another reason I loved animation is because it's a really hard topic to talk about, without breaking down, because you guys don't know, I'm dealing with some big emotional problems, especially with the things I've been dealing with in the past, like bullying, being made fun of, and being treated like an outcast. Other things, I really don't want to talk about it, but because of that, I was really miserable. And one thing that always kept me going from doing suicidal things was one, video games, and two, animation. And animation has always helped me a lot to deal with some of the stress I've been dealing with school. And with animation, when I was a kid, I always imagined myself to be Spider-Man. Spider-Man was my biggest hero, my biggest inspiration, but because of Spider-Man, also I was also being mocked by it because of my big fanboyism of Spider-Man, if you can guys call it that. I think it was kind of an obsession for me when I became a fan of Spider-Man, because the reason why I was a big fan of Spider-Man, especially when I discovered Spider-Man the animated series, Sam Raimi movies is because Spider-Man is a character I could really relate to. I always got good grades back then when I was younger. When I was also going to elementary school, I was always doing my best to get good grades, to make my parents proud, and getting good grades. And because of that, me trying to do my best and try to be polite, being, being like a decent human being, I always be being mocked, made fun of, taking advantage of. And Peter Parker, for example, as a character, also has been bullied, made fun of, and because of when he got these spider powers, he discovered this big responsibility of Spider-Man after his uncle died. He now takes full responsibility to balance out his life of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And because of Spider-Man, Spider-Man always giving me this big inspiration, always being responsible, doing my best. But with the country I live in, Latvia, for example, animation has not been looking good upon because of, how should I say this? People nowadays, I think, I don't know if nowadays people are, yeah, I think nowadays also that counts, but back then, a lot of people in my country looked at animation and thought it was just kid stuff to sell merchandise and nothing more. And yeah, it kind of worked, but at the same time, people are also missing the points of the shows. For example, I remember me and my sister actually enjoyed some of the Cartoon Network's awesome shows like Ed and Eddie, Dexter's Laboratory, and Cow Chicken. We even loved watching Cow Chicken for some reason, and I Am Weasel. Like, Jesus Christ. And because of Cartoon Network, it gives that big joy towards kids and the imagination they could come up with. And I feel like since Cartoon, and I don't know, for the longest time, my biggest dream was, sometimes I dreamt of working at Cartoon Network and creating this amazing action cartoon series, because one of the reasons why I loved Cartoon Network so much is because they had the balance between action-oriented shows and comedy-oriented shows. And I love Tom and Jerry, for example, one of my favorite comedy-oriented shows, and Eddie also is one of my favorite comedic-oriented shows. And the reason why those shows, I prefer those comedy type of shows rather than shows like Teen Titans Go, is because they had good writing and characters that you can relate to in some way. But the reason why is, but when I notice nowadays with the decline of action cartoons, especially nowadays, when I notice the decline, this big decline of action cartoons, is because of these overprotective parents saying that violence is way too bad. You can't show violent stuff for kids. How dare you? You're like the disgrace to the human race or something. Like, that is like the biggest stupid assumptions I ever heard, and this was not prominent in nowadays. Even that was even prominent even during 90s and mid 2000s, and during mid 2000s, action cartoons were spreading like wildfire, and especially on Cartoon Network and other places like Nickelodeon and especially Disney, like Kim Possible, Jake Long, The American Dragon. There was also Fox Kids that aired Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, and they also had many other kind of action-oriented shows. Cartoon Network also had Teen Titans, Megas XLR, Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack, and so many others. There's so many action cartoons that are popping on my list that I can't, catch them all. Like, gotta go, catch them all. Like, basically Pokemon. Oh boy. I wish I had a better microphone, because this is not, because when I talk to the microphone, this is not my real voice, but I try to actually explain, what I'm trying to do. But animation always been giving me joy, and also helped me deal with the problems with depression and, being in the social outcast all over the country, I believe, because I've been transferred to like 6 different schools, and I was nearly killed twice, and no joke, I was actually nearly killed. My most horrible experience for me as a kid was definitely the 3rd grade. My front tooth was broken, was basically smashed in half by some jerk who grabbed my head and slammed my face on the wall, and because of bitter hatred of my classmates, that my parents always took me home because of that incident with the tooth. Then one day we had a sport class, sport teacher was not around, I think he was drunk or something, and one of my classmates probably beat me up, put me on, grabbed me by the arms, a bunch of kids grabbed me by the arms, by the legs, then dropped me off of a cliff, and also later on I was kind of injured, not super badly, of course, damn mosquitoes, sorry, but I was crying so badly, and then I see like this giant wooden log being rolled down upon me, and they actually my own classmates tried to kill me in 3rd grade, and that was 1 year in like a school where it was built in the middle of the forest, and back then that school basically looked like a fucking asylum or something. Like I remember even sometimes when I sleep at night, I sometimes hear wolves howling. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, who the fuck decides to build a school in the middle of the fucking forest? Like, Jesus Christ, you will give kids fucking nightmares, night terrors, like fucking traumas or something. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the kids who actually studied all the way through to that school probably had to see a shit ton of therapists. Like, fucking hell. But with this problem, my 3rd grade experience was not the brightest one, and one of the another reason why I love animation, and because it is kind of like a safe place for me, because my relationship with my family has not been really successful. My mother, for example, is a overworking workaholic, and she has very hot temper, and I mean really hot temper. My sister, since she attended high school, she has changed for the worse, and she slowly becoming like my own mom, which is, I don't see it as a good thing. And my dad, my dad kind of supports me, but at the same time he takes things way too seriously, and he watches way too many news, too many to even count, and and because of that, I've always kind of been afraid of my parents, especially my own mother, and the animation was always like my saving grace, always, my escape from the harsh reality, because like I said, my life has been nothing but a living hell for a lot of the times. When I'm doing something goes right, then the world decides to slap me in the face and say, fuck you and your happiness, we're gonna make your life even more miserable than ever. Like, some people might ask, why didn't we move to another country? And the reason why that is one, in the past my dad told me that in Latvia the only language you could only learn and speak is Russian. Latvian language was not, like our country's language was not kind of acceptable in schools back then, but nowadays, we study English, Russian, and many other languages. But because of these old rules and stuff like that, and my parents going behind times and not trying to study English language, going to like language schools or something, we couldn't move to another country, and maybe, I don't know if my life could have been better if I moved to another country, because like I said, I was like both mentally and physically disabled since the day I was born. I think my brain was my half of my brain was damaged when my mom was giving me birth, because I remember once my mom talked about to my neighbors about the fact that when I was born I had a like really blue head and one of my legs was shorter than the other, and the leg problem I knew from the start. I couldn't run, I couldn't do things like any normal kids do. Like I couldn't normally walk. I only could able to walk on toes, and because of that, I was made fun of. Yeah, haha, mentally and physical disabled people. Let's make fun of them. Let's make their life a living hell. Like this is like my country, my country's motto in a nutshell. I remember when I was attending elementary school, my classmates were. I was studying in elementary school from 5th to 9th grade for like how many years that is? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It was basically 6 years or 7 years if you want to count more like these, semesters and stuff like that. But I was studying elementary school for 6 years, and I remember my classmates, especially the boys in my class, were huge assholes, and basically they laughed off someone's pain. Like, I remember we had like home economics, basically, working stuff, woodworking and stuff, and the teacher showed us the dangers of disobeying the laws and going through these electrical wires without any safety, or ignoring the rules and stuff like that. And when my classmates see this, when I saw this, I was horrified. I was like, holy shit, that is really awful. And I kind of felt bad for people who nearly survived those kind of, being electrocuted and nearly surviving these, and some of them not being able to walk. But my classmates, on the other hand, were laughing at this, like legitimately laughing at this. And I'm like, I'm like, oh my god, are the parents even, are the parents even aware about this? Like, yeah, in my country, a lot of people say Latvia is a great country, there's nothing much going on. Yeah, we don't have like these big natural disasters like compared to Tokyo that have like this massive earthquake, or in Mexico there was like this giant tornado or something, or in Canada I believe. But we don't have those. We also have like healthier foods and many other things, but because of that, but because of low budget reasons, there's barely anything left to do in this country. And with animation, getting cable for animation, for example, was a lot harder to do, and it costed a lot of money. And because of that, they removed Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon nowadays, which is, I believe, is a good thing, because the last thing I want is for kids to be brainwashed by Teen Titans Go and the other reboots, Cartoon Network reboots that are airing nowadays. And because of that, I don't know, since Cartoon Network, since the live action days, I believe I was slowly giving up on animation until I recently watched Alex Hirsch's new show, Gravity Falls. And when I finished watching Gravity Falls on the internet, of course, my hopes got back up, and I started to believe maybe animation can be good again. But with its story, sometimes yeah, but with its animation quality, I feel like it is really dropping low. It's like especially on Western animation. Some people might mention why I don't talk about anime, and because of and the reason why I don't talk about anime is because I didn't exactly grew up with it that much compared to many other people. And I mean, well, no, why people nowadays watch anime. Friends, oh jeez, that was some cough. Like fucking hell. It's not like the only animes that I really like watching is One Punch Man, My Hero Academia, the early Naruto series, and also Blue Exorcist. But other than that, I'm like, like, I don't know about anime. Like, anime has really cool animation, especially from Studio Ghibli. I never watched My Neighbor Totoro, but I have watched Spirited Away and another Studio Ghibli movie, which I forgot the name of. I haven't watched a lot of these movies, and like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of anime. I mostly grew up with Western animation, and with Western animation, I loved watching it. And with Western anime, and because of Cartoon Network shows back in the 90s and mid 2000s, the reason why I also love animated shows like Samurai Jack, Courage the Cowardly Dog, is because they always help me learn things that I couldn't normally learn from schools. Like, for example, Samurai Jack taught me how to move, and no matter how hard, how difficult the life is, I need to always try to move forward with my life. Courage the Cowardly Dog helped me to face my own fears that I have been afraid of since I was a little kid. Well, some of them more than others. And Codename Kids Next Door, for example, helped me learn that I should never forget about my childhood and shouldn't leave it in the dust compared to how my parents have done it eons ago. And yeah, maybe my mom and dad's childhoods weren't the best, I assume, but it's not like I completely hate my family. I still love them, but I kind of wish they could have, changed their personalities a little bit. Like, look up in the dictionary what fun actually means. Like, nowadays, when we're barely talking to each other, we basically have many different interests, and I don't know, it's like family problems, whatever, right? But, but yeah, this is my video of talking about why I love animation. Now, of course, there's also 3D animation, but that is my head hurts because I'm using headphones, and it is really hard for my ears to breathe, and I seriously need to save up money to actually buy a legit microphone. Like, oh, Jesus Christ. And also, I've been writing a lot of stuff with Cartoon Amino app. Now, this is the message to admins or anyone in the Cartoon Amino app. I really thank you for your amazing support, for putting some of my blogs as on the feature pages, and actually listening to my opinions about animation, and the fact that I could actually, even though it is virtually, but I would also love to meet you guys in person, because it is really amazing to meet people that love animation the same way as I do. Well, some of them, I believe, but it is really amazing, and I really thank you all for being so supportive, for accepting me in your fan base of cartoons and many other stuff concerning animation. And I really thank you a lot for this big giant support, and also you guys who are subscribing to my channel. And yeah, and because of that, with YouTube stuff, I've been also trying to figure out what I want to do. And when I talk about animation, more and more people try to support me as much as they can, and I love you guys for it. And it really makes me happy that there are people out there to give me this support, even though it's virtual, but it feels like a moral support, that there are still people who support me as much as they can, and I really love animation. And like I said, I want to create this crazy animated series, but I don't think that dream of mine will come true, because nowadays, with Western animation being downgraded, especially with the constant drop with the art style quality, I don't know how will this work out. I think it will never work out. I might try to actually write the ideas for the show. I might try to actually write like a book or something, but I'm afraid someone will steal ideas from me and not give me credit, because this is the world we live in, where people are becoming more greedy and self-centered, and that is really shitty, in my opinion. So yeah, thank you all, both from Cartoon Amino app, from Cartoon Amino community and YouTube community that always support my channel. And hope you guys enjoyed this video and my amazing calm and trying my best to actually tell why I love animation the way I can, and also listening to some of the reasons why I love watching animation, why animation is like this big part of me that made me what I am today. So thank you all so much, and like I said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and to help me more in many ways as you guys can. And this is Salmon 7 signing off.